Hey, this is Mike from the Run Testers, and this is our first run review of the New Balance Fresh Foam X 860 V13. Okay, so here's your rundown on the New Balance Fresh Foam X 860 V13. Best described as a moderate stability shoe that can work as a daily trainer to cover a lot of mileage. The 860 V13 is priced at £140 in the UK and $140 in the US, putting it at the same launch price as the 860 V12. It now comes in narrow, standard, wide and extra wide width options and sticks to a 10mm drop, while now offering around a 10 to 15 gram overall weight drop compared to the 860 V12. New Balance has reworked elements in the upper, midsole and outsole departments, with more elements contributing to the overall stability the shoe is designed to deliver. There's an engineered mesh upper to provide support and a good lockdown, while a reshaped medial post under the arch is in place to provide that stability. New Balance has rebuilt the midsole using a softer version of Fresh Foam X with a more responsive foam position at the forefoot to create a quicker toe off. The outsole has changed as well, with a new pattern and focus areas to provide that strong grip on roads and help contribute to the overall stability of this shoe. So fit for me in my UK size 8, I would say potentially you may want to go half a size up in this shoe. I do think it fits a little bit short. I kind of whacked the 860 V12 back on, see if it was a similar case. I do think it feels like it sits a little bit closer to the toes. Before I did that first run, I stuck on a kind of thicker pair of socks and it definitely sat a lot tighter on my foot. A thinner pair of socks was absolutely fine. So I do think, you know, potentially it is worth looking at going half a size up in the shoe. There is an extra kind of width size available now as well compared to the last shoe. So I think there's a kind of narrow and then you've got kind of wide, extra wide fits as well here. So you may get something that, you know, potentially can offer a better, more accommodating fit for kind of wider feet, but also kind of for the narrow end of the scale as well. But yeah, I would say potentially go half a size up in this shoe, and you know, you may need to play around with the sizing based on my first run. So in terms of that first run, I did 10 miles in this shoe, predominantly on pavement in some pretty treacherous conditions. It did get nicer the end of the run, which always seems to be the case. I did veer off slightly on a bit of grass, but ultimately I was mainly on roads. And I would say overall, the shoe felt very solid. I mean, the 860 V12 was a bit of a surprise shoe for me. I didn't think I was going to love running in that shoe, but actually I found it very, very strong. And I think the ride, the kind of fit and comfort side of things, made it a great shoe to kind of run a lot of mileage in. I think obviously with the 860 V13, New Balance has reworked a lot of things in this shoe. And I think fundamentally some things became more obvious in that run, others not so much. But I think overall it feels like the changes are for the positive. I think from an upper point of view, it felt very similar to me in terms of what I experienced on the 860 V12. I think it's nicely supportive. The laces and the tongue are very similar in terms of the kind of fit and kind of lockdown you get. It feels supportive, and that's the key thing for me. And I think, you know, it's not a thing that needed to massively change for me compared to what you got on the 860 V12. Now, where things have changed, and I think I did kind of experience in my run, is the change in the kind of midsole setup. Now, you do still have this kind of dual kind of midsole, but you've got this kind of softer Fresh Foam X foam here, which you can definitely feel when you kind of press in. That is definitely softer than what we got on the 860 V12. And then you've got this kind of blue kind of foam here, and I can kind of show you it's a lot bigger than what we got on the 860 V12. And essentially that's to create, I know it's kind of sitting more at the forefoot to create something that's a bit more responsive, gets you kind of on your toes a little bit quicker in terms of that kind of geometry that you're getting on this shoe. Now for me, overall, the ride you feel that softness, but it's not overly soft. And I think that's really important here. And I think for me, the ride felt very smooth, very consistent, all the kind of things that I think you got on the 860 V12. But I think here, you know, the fact you've got that softer Fresh Foam X midsole here, or that foam here, it does create something that feels a little bit more comfortable. New Balance talks about, you know, improving the kind of step-in feel with this shoe, and I definitely think that's what you do get on this shoe. So that's definitely a positive for me in terms of what I felt. It felt, as I said, very smooth, very consistent. It felt, you know, I still think the paces that these shoes are gonna work are gonna be very similar to what we had with the Fresh Foam X 860 V12, where I think, you know, it's going to be kind of slower, longer runs. You're just trying to kind of soak up a lot of mileage. That's where this shoe is going to excel. But you're getting, I think, a makeup of shoe, particularly in the midsole, which feels a little bit more comfortable, but also gives you something that you know you can run a lot of mileage in as well, and you're going to get that kind of support as well in the right places. And I think the other thing as well is these, you know, a lot of the kind of changes are to improve the kind of stability support you're getting in this shoe. So, you know, it's not just about the kind of the main element that kind of you're getting on this shoe that New Balance talks about. You know, I think you're getting elements from in terms of the outsole as well. I think, you know, the outsole is very different to what you're getting on the 860 V12. The pattern is different. I think, you know, kind of traction wise and grip wise, it was absolutely fine in those kind of dry and kind of more wet conditions that I did predominantly running in that first run. You know, you feel that outsole a little bit more. Obviously the areas it's protecting, obviously you can kind of, you know, are in the kind of forefoot, that kind of, you know, midfoot here as well, at the heel where, you know, you're going to want that kind of, you know, emphasize those kind of stability elements without being overly aggressive in terms of that feel. So I think for me, overall, it's felt like a, you know, it felt like a very solid run for me in that 10 mile. I feel like, you know, the shoe is going to excel in the same areas that the 860 V12 did, but ultimately it's going to, I think, feel more comfortable. It felt more comfortable to me overall in terms of that first run I did with it. It's looking like a solid upgrade for me. Obviously plenty more running to do, but I think off that first run, all very positive. It's looking like a very good upgrade, I think, based on that first run from the 860 V12. So, initial verdict on the 860 V13. I think overly very positive off that first run. It feels like a very solid upgrade to the 860 V12, which we really liked as well. And I think it's going to sit well with some of those kind of other moderate stability type shoes. I think things like the Saucony Tempest, which we really liked, and obviously we have a full review on the channel of that. That's a little bit more expensive than this. I think it's about £20 difference in terms of the price with the 860 V13. I think things like the Saucony Guide as well, which is a little bit lighter than this shoe, I would say as well, in terms of that feeling. But again, it's kind of got those kind of moderate stability elements in it as well. And if you want to go in a little bit more in terms of that stability kind of support, then things like the latest gel Kayano, which I think with the kind of new foam that you've got in there, definitely offers a more kind of enjoyable ride than previous gel Kayanos, but then also gives you those kind of more, you know, those classic kind of stability elements that we kind of associate with the gel Kayano. But I think for me, I said off that first run, all feels very positive. The changes that New Balance has made all feel very positive overall. I think the 860 V12 was a very, very good shoe, one that I surprisingly kind of I found worked really nicely for me in kind of my run test that I did with it. And I think with the V13, I think if you like the 12, I think the changes that New Balance have put here doesn't take away what was really strong about the V12, but ultimately it is going to improve, I think, the feeling overall, particularly I think over kind of distance running in this shoe, the kind of durability and lifespan you're probably going to get from this shoe as well. But again, plenty more running to do to see whether that kind of really holds up, whether it's a really good, strong, definite upgrade over the 860 V12. But so far, I think very positive, a really kind of strong, solid, kind of moderate stability shoe that doesn't feel like overkill in terms of those stability elements and can still offer a very kind of enjoyable, kind of soft, consistent ride overall. Okay, so there you have it. Those are our initial thoughts on the New Balance Fresh Foam X 860 V13. Looking like a very solid upgrade on the 860 V12. Now, if you've got any questions about this shoe or how it may compare to some other kind of moderate stability kind of shoes, then let us know in the comments. Thanks to Sport Shoes for providing us the review sample for this video, which we will also use in our multi-tester review once we've done a bit more running in this shoe. As always, like and subscribe. Hit that little bell to find out about our latest videos, and yeah, we'll see you for the next Run Testers video.